Recently, my life has fallen into chaos. Up is down, and down is up, and very little makes sense right now. It is at times like this that I almost wish that there were a God. It is times like this that I find myself wishing there were a miracle performing, swiftly interceding, and powerful supernatural being on my side making magic happen. But, in the end, it is just me, my family and friends, against a world gone mad. I must admit that these are the times when I wish I were still blissfully ignorant of the truth. Times like this can make a person just want to get plugged back into the matrix. I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean. I performed again at a local church Sunday night, and after the service I spoke to a woman whose son is returning to Iraq for another 8 months to work as a contractor. She understands the great danger that this puts her only son in, but she dismisses the danger because she told me that
he's in God's hands now?
Isn't that remarkable? Her son is in no less danger, but she cannot be burdened with the thought of it because God is in control. What should really give you pause is how whether he comes home, alive, or not, she will give God glory and praise, either for God's watch care and her son's safe return, or her son's death, and walk into heaven. I would call that a twisted, but decisive win for her, and her imaginary friend. Or how about this one? A few months ago one of the women that I used to work with in the church was in a terrible car accident. She broke a number of bones, including her back, and spent several weeks experiencing excruciating pain. She took painkillers by the handful, and yet she could not stave off the pain. She asked everyone for prayer for her healing. At one point she was in such horrible pain that she wrote a number of us asking why God would allow her to suffer so much great pain, and said that she would rather die than endure another day in agony or another torturous trip to the rehabilitation clinic. She asked why God was ignoring her prayers. Some of those that received the message sent her encouraging emails. Many would finish their email by writing something trite like, "Be faithful. God will not forsake you." Christian nonsense. Easy to say when it isn't you. Guess what? Her prayers for relief from her pain never came. She suffered continually for months until her body healed of its own accord with the aid of medicine and the efforts of doctors and the rehabilitation clinic. God never interceded on her behalf. The prayers of this faithful woman and those of her church were not answered. But here is where it gets good. A couple of weeks ago she got her settlement from the insurance company for her totaled car. It was a substantial amount, and that payment allowed her to purchase a new car. Then she sent us all this line.
God is so good. I received a check from my insurance company today. God does provide. God does provide.
Isn't that just incredible? No. God did not provide. The insurance company simply did its job, but do you see what she did? She suffered terribly from pain that her God never helped her with, and instead of facing the fact that immeasurable prayer was never answered, she gave her God credit for doing that which the insurance company does on a daily basis, that being processing claims and cutting checks. Of course, by taking the stance that God did it, she quits asking why her prayers for relief were ignored, and it gives her a way to shore up a faith that had faltered. So, my personal little world has spun out of control. Everything has been turned up on end. What should I do? I can tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to say a prayer, absolve myself of responsibility and whizzle on down the street. Why? Because my problems didn't come as part of any God's will, and they won't go away because of the same. And talking to the ceiling isn't going to do me any more good than it did relieving my colleague's pain after her car accident, or protecting the 4,700 military personnel that have been killed in Iraq, and aren't there millions of people across the nation and world praying for their protection? Wouldn't you think that, if all it takes is the faith the size of a mustard seed, that at least one person among the millions praying would have at least that much faith? The truth is that physical pain isn't relieved, and soldiers continue to die as prayers go unanswered, and prayer isn't answered because, wait for it, no one is listening. For my part, there is a great deal of comfort knowing that my problems do not originate from some giant guy in the sky who is punishing me, or testing me, or trying my faith out for size. This is just life, and sometimes life can get rocky. We all make choices, and those choices have consequences. Sometimes the outcome of our choices is good, and at other times it is bad, but ultimately we are responsible for these things that happen to one another. Isn't that more reasonable? Doesn't that make more sense? Doesn't the reality that God is just a construct of man bring you a sense of peace? It does me. Sure, a magic wand to wave over all of my problems would be nice, but I know that there is no magic man or witching words from any holy book that can put my life back in order right this moment. It is up to me to make the most out of my life, and that gives me strength and hope.